Live.
Welcome, everyone. It's so good to be back with you for the COVID313 Coalition for Families and Students Town Hall. Good to be back for another Thursday. I'm Christine Bell. I'm the Executive Director of Urban Neighborhood Initiatives, a really proud member of this coalition and a mom of 3 wonderful children that you may hear in the background. So I apologize for any background noise. We want to give folks time to get comfortable and get on the right line before we get started. We've got a great town hall for you today. We're really excited. So Ophelia, can you please share the details for how to listen to Spanish interpretation?
Yes, thank you, Christine. Si ocupas la traducción en español, por favor busca en el chat o ve a la página de Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation para ver la traducción en vivo de este video. Otra vez lo vamos a poner en el chat y también pueden ir a nuestro Facebook y la traducción sería hecha por la señora doña Gloria Rosas y Cristina Ruiz Manza.
Thank you so much, Ophelia. And thank you, Gloria and Christina, for providing the interpretation services. We are very much appreciative. And Katie, could you please share the instructions for ASL? Thank you so much, Katie, and it is great to have you with us again today and kicking us off. And, you know, as always, this is not just us bringing information to you, but we really want to hear from you. We want to know what questions you have so that I can ask them. And we also want to hear your comments. And you can ask your questions or comments by using the Facebook chat. Lindsay and Rita, I think, are with us today monitoring the chat, and you can test them right now. Make sure that they're on their game by sharing with us how you heard about the town hall today, and maybe what do you want to hear about in the future. And then you can also text your questions to our text number at 313. Thank you, Molly, for sharing your screen, because you would think after a year I would have this number memorized, but I do not. So you can text your numbers to 313. Molly, can you change the screen so that the text message line can come up?
We took away the text message line. We're just doing messages in the chat.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. So apparently you cannot text us questions today. So please put all your questions and comments in the chat. All right. And I am going to now pass this on to Redistricting. Redistricting, let's hear from you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Redistricting Bhatia, and I am the Director for School Performance for Grand Valley State University's Charter School Office. I am also a former teacher, school principal, and mother of 2 beautiful girls. Some of you may know that this week is National Teacher Appreciation Week, and technically I think it's actually the month, but which is what we should celebrate. And so we wanted to take a moment to ask you all to think back to a teacher who has influenced your life, who you really enjoyed being around, who made a difference to you. And we want to also recognize that teachers have made this pandemic period in particular much more bearable for our children, and we want to appreciate them. And as we think back to those teachers that influence us, I'm lucky to have several of them. But one in particular that I'll talk about today is in this picture with me, and that's my very first dance teacher. Mrs. Bursa taught me how to do basic tap and ballet at a time when I didn't really think I knew or could ever do that. And that's what great teachers do. They inspire, they teach us to believe in ourselves. They help us accomplish something that we never thought we'd accomplish before. They have fun doing it. They're role models. I loved seeing Mrs. Bursa because she was so graceful when she moved, and she always had the coolest earrings and the coolest jewelry. And I just wanted to be just like her. And, you know, like I said, I'm lucky to have several teachers in my memory bank. I'm sure each of you is fondly remembering at least one of your own and your own children's teachers as well. But this month, we really want to take time as a coalition to recognize teachers. And so to that end, we invite you to submit a nomination of a teacher who's influenced your child's life. And we will be recognizing them at a future town hall. And also every teacher will receive a small gift from this coalition. So I'm going to ask one of my colleagues to please drop the nomination form in the chat. And we really hope that you'll take this opportunity to help recognize and honor these individuals who have given so much of themselves and who continue to do so, who shape our next generation, and who really help make the world a better place. So with that, I'll hand it back to Christine, and I'll see you guys in a little bit. Thank you.
Rajeshi, that was so beautiful. And you just made me think about, I literally would not have been able to get through high school without Mr. Ogden and Mr. Biglin. Mr. Biglin was my swim coach and a science teacher, and Mr. Ogden was my 9th grade English teacher. And I truly, for all 4 years, used to go back into his room whenever I was having a really bad day, and he encouraged me to keep on. So I just, please, right now in the chat, grab that form, nominate a teacher. You don't have to be in school right now. You can nominate someone that meant a lot to you when you were in school. But teachers really do transform young people's lives, and in really positive ways. So make sure you do that. And we'll know that the chat is working if you go ahead and do that. Again, we're translating the town hall to Spanish and ASL. So if Ophelia, if you would come back on one more time and share the information on how to connect to the Spanish interpretation.
Yes, thank you. Si ocupas traducción o quieres ver este video en español, por favor ve a la página de Facebook de Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation, donde están haciendo una interpretación en vivo, y también en el chat ahí van a estar el enlace para ver el video. La traducción hoy sería hecha por la señora Cristina Ruiz Manzón y la señora Gloria Rosa.
Thank you so much, Ophelia. And then Katie, could you please share the instructions for ASL one more time? Thank you so much, Katie. And again, you can put your comments and questions in the Facebook chat, and we've got Lindsay and Rita, I believe, monitoring the chat for us today, and so they're waiting for your questions. We'd like to remind you to stay with us for the next 60 minutes so you can stay informed and be empowered. We have a collection of experts to share their expertise in a number of different areas and answer the common question that you've been asking or that you've heard your friends ask. So they're here, they know and ready to answer your questions. So we're going to have a question and answer after each segment. If we can't answer your question today, we're committed to getting the answer to you by early next week. And all of the questions asked today will be posted with their answers on onedetroitpbs.org so that you can go back and reference them later. For our experts, please remember to speak slowly for our translators. They really want to make sure that they're translating the important information that you're sharing correctly. Also, turn off your cameras when you're not speaking to ensure that our ASL interpreter can be seen. And please mute yourself when you're not speaking. Terry Whitfield, the most amazing timekeeper of timekeepers, is with us today, and he will chat you your remaining time. So keep your eye on the chat. If you go over your time, myself, Jametta, or Rajeshri will come onto the screen and gently remind you to wrap up. We've got so many great guests today that we want to make sure that we give each of you a good amount of time to share your information, and then of course have the audience ask questions. And so it is with my great pleasure that I get to hand this over now to Jametta Lilly. Jametta?
Thanks so much, Christine. And it's a joy to follow up from Rajeshri, who wonderfully showed a picture of her when she was just a little blooming flower in the hands of a teacher. So my name is Jametta Lilly, and I am just so blessed to serve as the CEO of the Detroit Parent Network. And so I would like for us to think about something as we are all embracing teacher appreciation. And that's to remember that our parents are our very first teacher. And truly, they are our most enduring teacher for many of us throughout our lifetime. But I would just love to say, I would like to lift up all the wonderful teachers from Thurko Elementary School, but also as a point of quick history that just occurred to me, I happened to have been one of the first 5 students to, quote, integrate what used to be Winship Junior High. Wow. And so all of those teachers were very remarkable to make sure that all of us little raisins in the batch of all of that oatmeal at Winship Junior High felt comfortable. And it was my gym teacher, Mrs. Krause, who was exceptional. Not only did she help create intramural basketball, of which I was on the team, she battled the suburban middle schools who refused to let us play because half the team by that time were all little Black girls. So we were affirming our Black girl magic that back then, and Mrs. Cross was an ally and helped to support that. And she is still here, so I want to lift up her name as well. And so with that, we want to encourage all of you to do the same. Go back in your memory. Remember that teacher or those teachers that made a difference in your life. Let's lift up their names. Teaching is a magnificent occupation, and we so need it now. The heart of teaching. But something else is really important as we think about heart, and that's the people who have the heart to do community organizing. And so I'm really pleased that on the program, I have the opportunity to introduce a community organizer, Oscar Castaneda, who is with the Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation and working on something that is just so critical, and that's redistricting. Redistricting in the context of a state and indeed a nation that has been victimized by gerrymandering. But I'm sure, Oscar, you're going to talk about that. So welcome to COVID313. It's a delight to have you on board. Audience, we're going to hear from Oscar for a little bit, and then we're going to open it up to questions. Welcome, Oscar.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me in your space. I'm going to try to go through this presentation in 10 minutes, and hopefully I succeed. I have some PowerPoint material that I want to show you. I don't know who has it. I thought it was Molly who had my PowerPoint.
I'm pulling it up right now, Oscar.
Okay. So
yeah, I was gonna say, go ahead. She's got you.
I'm gonna start by saying my name is Oscar Castañeda. I am a community organizer, as it was said before. I work with Ophelia, and Ophelia has been part of this space for a long time, for a longer time than me as well, at least. So if you ever want to get a hold on me, And hopefully my goal today with this 10 minutes is to get you excited about this and to make you think that you have to take action. So if I achieve that and you don't know how to find me, please reach out to Ophelia. Ophelia knows how to find me. I talk to Ophelia every single day. So this is me and this is my organization. And this is my email address. And the topic for today is Redistricting Michigan. And you know, I've done this presentation in Spanish several times. And the first time I found something really interesting for the translation, that I don't know how to say redistricting in Spanish. There's not the exact word. So it's probably recreation of the recreación de distritos, or probably rediseño de distritos, but there's not an exact translation. So we Spanish speakers need to somehow grasp the meaning and probably forget about the translation. So next slide, please. So we all know, and this is in this space, I don't need to preach about this, how the Southwest, the Tory Latino community, and all minorities have been always loving vote. In the Latino population in particular is one of the lowest. And in some political analysts speak about the Southwest Detroit as a dead zone because of the low voting. Next, please. I'm showing here a few numbers. The blue line shows white non-Hispanic voters. The green shows African American, and the orange and red lines at the bottom are Asian and Hispanic. So see, Hispanic does really badly. We had some level of excitement in 2008, which means the Obama election, and that's about it. But we are really low constantly. And then the question is, next please, why? Why is that we don't turn out to vote? And some people will say, I don't understand the process. I don't know what voting is. And you know, people you expect to be informed, I find when you ask them who's your state rep, they don't know. Or who is your U.S. Congress representative, they don't know. And not to be blamed for, because the system is complex, it's not simple. Another good reason that is probably related to this, next please, is I don't speak English. And that doesn't apply only to Latinos, that applies to many minorities. And we at the HDC are working in this project of trying to have more information translated. But a lot of research is finding that the main reason for people to not to get interested in voting is, next please, is because people think that nobody really represents me or represents you. And that becomes a major problem. So I noticed in this presentation that I'm probably one of the very few men in here. So I thought that this graphic was great. We really need to make sure that our vote counts, and to make sure that mi voto cuenta and that our opinion is going to be heard. Why is that so far we constantly feel like we're not being heard? Next, please. One important reason is that until now, in Michigan and in many states of the United States, the decisions were made. So there is a census. After the census, they use the census numbers to reallocate the districts, to shape the districts. And it used to be made by the party that was in power the year of the election. In Michigan, for the composition of the state and bad luck and other circumstances, the last 40 years it has been done by Republicans, and that has an effect. And next, please. I always show this small exercise, and I wish I could spend more time in this today, but I won't. But again, this PowerPoint can be available for you if you want it. And this is not even my graphic. I took it from someone else. In this box, in the left, you see 50 small squares. Out of those 50 small squares, 20 are red and 30 are blue. So it's close, it's not that very different. But then when you look at the box in the center and the box in the right-hand side, you can see how different the outcome can be depending on how you break that big box. So in the square in the center, you can see that it was broken fairly equal. It's proportional. It makes sense according with the whole content of the whole box. In the right-hand side, you can see that depending on how you divide the space, you always will get a different outcome. And this is what gerrymandering is about. So the results, look at this funny shape. What is this about? Doesn't have nothing to do with a box, right? There's another one. Next, please. Next, please. Those funny shapes. And to make it more personal, next, please. I want to talk about Detroit and Southwest Detroit. So this picture that you're looking at, the dark is the Latino population. The darker, the more Latinos are. Gray means some Latinos. So please get a mental picture of this graphic. Look at the Latinos in Michigan. Next. These are the districts, the way they are today in Detroit. So, and again, look at the funny shapes. And you have to think, why do they come up with these funny shapes? What is the rationale? Look by where it says Farmington Hills. Why do you want to have this thing like peeking out, like looks like a camera sitting in a table? Next. Now look at what they did. The red line is outlining the spaces where you saw dark for the Latino population in the first picture. And watch, they divided the Latino population into 3 different districts. So we will never have power with this. So there are some Latinos left in the green space, in the light green. There are some other Latinos left in the other green and some Latinos in the orange. We will never be together that way. This is exactly what gerrymandering is about. So if we were all in the same district, things would be different. They would listen to us, at least more than what they do now. This is exactly the gerrymandering problem. Next, please. And this is what we're trying to fix. So these kind of problems have been happening through the whole United States for many years, and this is what this is what gave birth to the concept of redistricting commissions. Next. This is not a new invention. There are already a lot of states with the redistricting commissions. There are all kinds of flavors and versions, and some of them are working better than others. Next, please. But the good news is that now we have one in Michigan that passed in the last election and created an amendment in the Michigan Constitution. And the official name is the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. They have a website now. It's there. Next, please. And my time is almost out. So I want to make 2 very important points. One is the big thing is that they're going to be in Detroit. They're going to be in June 10, June 15, and June 17. They're going to have public hearings to listen from you and from me. And we at the HDC are working in getting another event in our facility to be more focused on our issues. And there is more to say about this. These 3 events in Detroit in June 10, 15, and 17th, they are what they call public hearings. And because they are public hearings, they have some rules and they follow the Robert rules and all those things. And the one in the HDC would be a town hall. And because it's a town hall, there are no rules and it's just a back and forward conversation. So they're going to be here and they're going to be listening to us. Now, the thing is, next, please. We need to be ready. If they're going to come and they're going to be listening to us, we need to know what we're going to talk about. And my goal in this presentation is to make you think about it. We at the HDC will have trainings for people so you know what you have to talk about and how to say it and what are the areas. And the final goal that people should have is to be able to submit a map on how your district looks like or how you think that your district should look like. And of course, you can come and you can say things and you can, if you have a preacher, maybe the preacher can come. Someone can come really pissed off and say bad things. But you can also submit a map so you can submit it. So we want you to be at the events, and we want you to be trained and educated in what the redistricting is about, and what a map looks like, and how to create one. And we are ready to help you. And my goal in here is to make you inspired enough so you come to us.
You were phenomenal. I think we have about 3 minutes left for some questions. That was great.
Okay,
And
great,
thank you so
great.
much for the slides in particular.
Okay, you're very
I know
welcome.
I'm going
And-
to kick it to Christine, so some questions, but if there's one thing, if you would, so right now you said in the last slide, and it's so good that the organization is going to provide technical assistance. Are there some dates that people can reach out to you now to begin to get ready for when it will be at the Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation?
Right now.
Oh,
If
got
you reach out to me, we can work in one-on-one, and we can invite you to events. We don't have dates yet because we don't know when we will be open, and we want to have live events, and we are planning to be open soon, very, very soon. So once, or maybe it just falls apart and we never open. So that's why we don't have dates today,
Okay.
but we are working on it. So if you give me your name and your contact information, I will make sure that I follow up with you.
Great. Christine, thank you.
Oscar, I love that. And maybe it'll all just fall apart and we'll not be open. Because, that is how we've all been living for the last year. Hope for the best, plan for anything. So I have a question for you. Thank you for the information. It was really good. I was really excited for this presentation myself, just to learn more. So thank you. Since we recently found out that Michigan is losing a congressional rep, how will this affect redistricting?
We don't know yet because, see, it was big in the news. It was big in the news because it has a lot of splash effect, and everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, we're losing one seat. Oh my gosh, what is wrong with this?" To be practical and objective, it's not a big deal. Number one, because the Democratic majority is a majority right now in the House, so it's going to have a small effect. So there are hundreds of representatives. It's going to be a small sliver. This is one piece. The other piece is this is not the complete information. It's just the first round of information. It doesn't mean that the Michigan is smaller now than 10 years ago. It just means that the proportion of people in Michigan is like, I'm going to give you one example. Michigan probably has more people now than 10 years ago. The problem is that Colorado grew much more, and the problem is that Texas grew up a lot more. So they have to come up with the detailed numbers to know exactly how many people is. Today, each district for the U.S. Congress in Michigan has 705,000 people. We don't know how many people is going to be in each district in this coming round until they give us the final numbers. So it's difficult to answer at this point. Does it make sense?
It makes sense that it's, that we know this small piece of information and that more information needs to come out. I mean, I think I guess one of my concerns, and Jametta, if you want to say something as well, but I think one of my concerns is that it will happen, we'll lose one of the seats in our area, which would mean that we would lose, we would lose representation of our African American and Latino populations. I think that's one of the concerns that I would have, but I don't know. I think based on what you're saying, it's too early to tell. And so I don't know, Jametta, if you have a question or a thought about that.
Sure. Thank you, Christine. And I'm mindful of time, so I'm going to say this, and then if you don't mind, Oscar, we'll move forward. I think we always do need to be mindful of representation. There is a disproportionate, there's only one African American that's from Michigan representing the state. Two is, I think Christine said, we only have 2 people of color. And the majority that the Democrats have really is slim. It's not overwhelming. But to our point, what we do with this program is we use knowledge for power. And I think that we now know that Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation is working on helping people put your comments and your advocacy together. We know that groups like the NAACP and others, many others, are working on this issue. So families, we want to encourage you, find the organizations that are working on redistricting. It is not a fair price. It's not a fair process. We have, and we're feeling the results of that. So let's get busy. We've got time. We've got some events coming up. Oscar, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And we're going to transition to our next speaker. And just as we talk about opportunities, the other real opportunity we have is that as a result of the election that we've had some new decisions made about how the millions and billions of dollars in this nation are spent. So we know that there's been new resources coming into the city and the state, and with the American Rescue Plan, there's probably more opportunities. And to help us better understand what that means in terms of housing, food, access to a lot of our basic needs, we're always happy to have back with us Wayne Metro, which is the community action agency for Detroit and Wayne County. And joining us is Jasmine Carson, who is the Integration Assistant Director. Jasmine, welcome and welcome you and Wayne Metro back to the program.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to kind of share some resources and some of the programs we have available here at Wayne Metro.
Okay, great. You've got it. Go ahead.
Thank you. On to the next slide. So I first want to let everyone know that our Connect Center is open 6 days a week. So we're open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And we're also open on Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Next slide. So at our Connect Center, this is primarily our first line of contact for our clients. We take an average of 800 calls per day. So clients are able to be assisted with application completion, conduct pre-screening, and provide information and schedule any appointments that the clients may need. And we also provide wraparound services at that time. Next slide. So now I'm going to introduce to you some of the programs that we have available currently. Next slide, please. The first program that I want to talk about is the Michigan Energy Assistance Program. It's better known as MEAP. So we provide energy assistance throughout Wayne County through case management and direct assistance. Primarily, all of our appointments are through our online application or through telephonic appointments. We are not doing in-person appointments right now because we are virtual, but soon, once we get adjusted and once the pandemic is over, we'll probably be back in the office and be able to serve people face-to-face. So clients can receive up to $4,000 toward their utility bill. They must apply for SCR or State of Emergency Relief through MDHHS. They can receive direct assistance. They can be enrolled in affordable payment plans and receive case management services, financial counseling. For MEAP assistance, we do have some additional discretionary funds available. The next program is the Water Residential Assistance Program, or the WRAP program. So clients are eligible to receive up to $1,000 in direct assistance annually. Their past due or arrears are frozen, and they can re-enroll into this program for 2 years. They receive a 25 monthly credit, which adds up to $300 annually, and can receive up to $700 in arrears paid for. We do have something called Redfinity, and this is offered to enrollees who are successful for 2 years. They have someone 62 or older in their household or someone disabled, which means that they can be enrolled in RAP as long as the program exists if they meet the qualifications. We offer renters and homeowners water conservation programs and services. So that's a home water audit or plumbing repair, value up to $1,500. And then we also have voluntary water, energy, and financial education workshops. Next slide, please. We have food distributions every Friday. We distribute food, cleaning supplies, and personal protection equipment. It's drive up, so it's no contact. We have 4 locations, one in Highland Park, one in Taylor, one in Dearborn, and also in Detroit. So if you're interested in any food distributions, you can visit any one of those sites, and it's a rotation every Friday. Next slide, please. Then one of our newer programs is the CERA program. So that's the COVID Emergency Rental Assistance. This was passed back in December of 2020 with the relief package. We can help renters with past due rent and utility balances, and we can assist people in subsidized housing. And even if you received some funding from our eviction diversion program, you still may qualify for CERA. In most cases, payments are made directly to landlords or the utility provider. However, tenants or landlords can apply on behalf of a household. Next slide, please. So who's eligible? So anyone with income less than the 80% AMI, which is the area median income. So for a family of 4, AMI, 80% AMI will be about $62,800. So these families have to show some type of COVID hardship that can be an unemployment income, loss of income during COVID, increased expenses during COVID, and past due utility rent notice for economic hardship. Next slide, please. So households up to 50% AMI can receive up to 12 months of assistance and 3 months for rent. Households who are between 50 and 80% AMI can receive up to 10 months of assistance with 3 months for rent. We can cover up to $400 in late fees and $150 in court costs. So for utilities, we can pay electricity, home heating, water, sewage, and trash. Next slide, please. So if you're interested in any of our rental assistance programs for Detroit, Hamtramck, and Highland Park, we have a hotline that you can call. And then for any other areas within Wayne County, you'll call that number as well. If you visit waynemetro.org/CERA, the application is on the website. Next slide.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. We appreciate all that information that you just shared. And definitely, it's very useful to all of our viewers. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wonderful. All right, moving forward, I'd now like to invite our resident medical experts to please join us. We have Dr. Angela Cruz, Infectious Disease Fellow from DMC. We have Dr. Nirmal Nandakumar, the Medical Director of Ascension's My Health Urgent Care and ER Doctor. And welcoming back Dr. Dennis Cunningham, the Systems Medical Director of Infection Prevention from Henry Ford. If I could ask the 3 of you to please highlight your screens, turn on your mics. Let's get ready to answer some questions. All right, I see all 3 of you. Wonderful. And I'm going to just say a quick reminder that you may not have heard in the very beginning. We are translating this in both Spanish and ASL. So we appreciate you speaking slowly and clearly so that our translators can get everything that you say. So welcome back. I'm going to dive right into the questions here. First question is about the vaccine. As we have learned, the vaccine has, we've seen a sort of slowdown in how it's being administered. Can you talk a little bit about how the vaccines currently cover the variant? Maybe Dr. Cruz, you want to start with that one?
Sure. So the preliminary evidence so far does show that currently the circulating variant is what we know as the UK variant, or the B117, and the current FDA-approved vaccines that we have now are showing efficacy against that particular variant. So yeah, so far that's what we know.
Wonderful. So you're seeing that the vaccines that we're using are having efficacy or being successful against the variant.
So far, the variant that's currently predominant in our environment right now. Now, there are other variants of concern that we know about, and certain studies have shown that they're less effective, but still they are effective still, even at a lesser capacity.
Okay. So against the main variant that we're seeing, it is fairly effective.
Mhm.
There are other less pervasive variants at this time that we have seen that it's not as effective, but but it is still effective.
Correct.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Dr. Nandakumar, tell us what is happening in the emergency department. What are you seeing? Who's coming in? What are the symptoms?
Yeah, so for the past few weeks, we've seen a surge in patients coming in. We're seeing a younger population than we were seeing before, like last year, last spring. So now we're seeing 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, and 50-year-olds coming in with COVID-type symptoms. The main symptoms are shortness of breath, cough, generalized body aches, and pain. The thing that's different now, most of them are not being hospitalized or they're not going to the ICU. So definitely the death rate, mortality rate has come down significantly, but the positivity rate has gone up. The past week or so, we've seen a decline, which is good. But the past month, it's been, we did have a surge in Michigan.
Okay. All right. So shortness of breath is one of the main symptoms. And while they're coming into the ED, they're not getting admitted to the ICU as frequently.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. That's great. That's great to hear. Dr. Cunningham, of course, we like to direct all of our questions about kids to you, given that you're a pediatrician. Talk to us a little bit about, what precautions should parents be taking as they look to take their kids on play dates, go to the parks, start to be engaged with sports. What are some of the things that parents should be doing or caregivers, adult caregivers of kids should be doing to keep our kids safe?
The first thing I would do is I'd encourage vaccination for kids 16 and over. The Pfizer COVID vaccine is approved down to that age. I do expect within the next month or so that we're going to see the Pfizer vaccine approved for even younger ages down to 12. Pfizer did already submit their data to the FDA for that group, and it looked quite promising, quite well tolerated. The main thing for kids, I do think playing outside is safer than playing inside. Again, hand washing. If your kids are sick, please don't send them out. If they're going to be really close together, especially indoors, masks are still advised if kids will tolerate it. Kids under 2 rarely will wear a mask. It's not a good idea because they could choke on it. Under 5 years of age, I find it hard for kids to wear their masks for any prolonged periods of time. But above that age, that's probably our most effective tool we have.
Okay, great. And Dr. Cunningham, I'm gonna ask a follow-up to something you just said about the masks being, for we have a mandate for children under the age of 2 and up to wear masks. Talk to us a little bit about why that might have been mandated. What's some of the rationale behind it?
I think the reason it was mandated because we do know masks help to decrease transmission. Young kids are not able to get a vaccine at this time against COVID. And I think that was the intent behind the mandate. However, I think as a pediatrician, I'm not convinced it's going to be very practical to implement.
Mm-hmm. There was some conversation that I'd heard with people saying, well, if you think about we're seeing getting COVID, as Dr. Nandakumar said, as a parent, people in their 30s and 40s, they may have kids who are of that age. So potentially it's to sort of help that back and forth. Is there any validity to that?
Absolutely. But even though kids don't get COVID, their symptoms tend to be a lot more mild. There are still a significant number of kids who wind up in the hospital from COVID. Some of them can have very serious complications, especially there's this inflammatory syndrome which can follow COVID infection by a few weeks. It's a generalized inflammation in the body. Those kids can be pretty sick. So we do want to stop it as much as possible.
Okay, great. Thank you. Dr. Cruz, since your specialty is infectious disease, could you tell us a little bit about the virus itself? How long does it live on surfaces? And we've heard about wearing masks and washing our hands. What else do we need to do as a part of our regular life to keep us from, getting affected?
So in terms of your first question about how long the virus lives on surfaces, so it varies from surface to surface. They did various studies, whether on paper, on wood, on steel. So it ranges from a few hours to several days. But the key thing is the transmissibility from fomites or from surfaces they've found is likely to be low. the main mode of transmission still is through respiratory droplets. So from person to person in closed spaces. So again, thinking about that, the important thing is to try to stick to the public health measures that we've always been reminding people, which is social distancing and washing of hands. So even if it's in the surfaces, if you are mindful about hand hygiene, then that's certainly a means of preventing spread through that method.
Okay, so that's very important. You're saying that it can live on surfaces, and for certain surfaces up to a few days, but the likelihood of spreading it is still higher in terms of just breathing it in.
Yes,
and hand hygiene.
Yeah, because if you have if your hand is in contact with the surface with the COVID virus, you would have to put your hand on your face. And that would be like the mode by which the virus is, that you get infected with the virus. But that's low as compared to the respiratory droplet transmission.
Okay, so what you're telling me is that the fact that I wash my hands every 4 to 5 minutes probably keeping me safe. Might be drying out my hands a bit, but it's keeping me safe. Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you so much. Dr. Nandakumar, as we think about the vaccines, and we've sort of heard that they have a 6 month, we're thinking 6 months of effectiveness. What do you think is going to happen about 6 months after we've had, most of our people vaccinated, which coincidentally is going to be right before school starts? Do we expect another surge? What are you preparing for in the ED?
Well, I think it'll be similar to what happened last year. Last summer, we had a plateau, things leveled off, but then we had a surge in the fall. And now, as Dr. Cruz had mentioned, there's other variants out there, and specifically the South African variant. If that comes here and becomes a problem, we're definitely going to have another surge. The summertime, people are going to be out and about. There's going to be more traveling. Kids will be in camp. So we're definitely expecting a surge to happen in the fall. And everything that I've read and looked into, probably all going to need a booster vaccine this fall. Definitely the high-risk patients, so 50 and 60-year-olds and over with other health issues will definitely need a booster. And same with all the first responders, physicians, and whatnot will most likely need a booster also.
Mm-hmm. And Dr. Cunningham, is that how Henry Ford's also preparing for sort of something similar?
Well, I will say we know the vaccine gives good protection for at least 6 months. The manufacturers have an ongoing study to measure antibodies in volunteers. They're looking at the 9-month data right now. So I think we're going to certainly have a longer than 6 months protection. I agree with the booster doses. It's probably going to be booster doses like influenza, where every year it's tweaked a little bit to get whatever strains are currently circulating. If we can get to about 50% of our population vaccinated, we can really halt COVID. Israel had great success doing that. When they got to 50% of people having 2 doses, the number of cases dropped dramatically. As they got even higher, COVID essentially is almost gone right now from that country. So we can get there, but people need to still wear the mask, the social distancing until everyone has the vaccine, or until we have a lot more people with the vaccine. My concern is we have plenty of vaccine, far more than people who want to get vaccinated. And that's that just means we're going to be dealing with COVID and these little outbreaks more and more.
And if we can talk a little bit more about that, and I welcome any of you to sort of answer this, and I know we've got questions from the audience as well, but we have a section of the population who is not comfortable getting vaccinated, is not choosing to get vaccinated right now for a variety of reasons. Can we talk a little bit about why that's important and how that, as you just said, Dr. Cunningham, we're going to keep dealing with COVID. Can you explain a little bit about why? Why is that the case?
Well, if enough people have been vaccinated or infected, they're protected against another infection. They'll have some protection. Now, different strains can make this a whole nother ball game, but as long as there's people who are susceptible, as the infection spreads, more and more people get sick, they give it to other people. If we can get people vaccinated, that's our best bet to get this virus under control and stop transmission in our community. Without more people getting vaccinated, I think we're going to have these COVID surges where every 6 to 12 weeks, we're going to have another spike in the number of hospital admissions. It's just going to keep going on. And That's really what concerns me the most. Our healthcare workers are tired. The amount of stress and work that they've been doing is incredible, and they really need a break.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Anything to add? Yeah.
Yeah, in addition to what Dr. Cunningham said, it's important to remember that vaccination as a measure is not just like an individual management thing, it's a community-based measure. So unlike like when you take a course of antibiotics, you're treating a patient. With vaccination, you're treating a community. So it's a hand-in-hand effort. When you get yourself vaccinated, you're not only protecting yourself, you're protecting the weaker members of society in terms of their immune system. So I think that that's an important message to send to people. Yeah.
Okay, that's really helpful. And then lastly, just from each of your perspectives, how are people getting COVID? You know, you're each seeing patients that have it. You know, Dr. Nandakumar, maybe you can start and we can move on with that, but how are they getting it?
Well, you know, when we've seen surges in the ER, it's usually been after either there's been a holiday vacation or some big event. So after Christmas, New Year's holiday, about a week or two later, we saw a surge. After spring break, there are a lot of families and people traveling. So again, about a week after that, we saw another surge. And also around that time, there was a couple sporting events where people were getting together. So at least in the ER, you know, a lot of it was either people who are traveling, people who were refusing to get the vaccine. That's where we saw a lot of spread in the community and a lot more visits to the hospital and admission.
Mm-hmm. Great. Dr. Cunningham, you concur with that? Is that what you're seeing also?
I do. What I don't think has gotten enough attention is when schools sports resumed, there were hundreds of outbreaks associated with sporting events. Each outbreak in turn had hundreds of cases associated with it. And I think that and the spring break travel were probably the biggest factors for this last surge.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Cruz, same thing?
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, it's just in addition to that. So the virus needs people to spread. So as long as like people are traveling, areas where there's people in small places that are unvaccinated at this point in time, then you can expect outbreaks here and there still.
Okay. Great, thank you so much. Christine, I know we've got questions from the audience. Let me turn it over to you. And then I know I think we're going to bring Jasmine back after these guys for a couple of questions as well. So go ahead, I'll let you ask the question.
Yeah, so Jasmine, you're on deck. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. So the first question is, what is your opinion about people who said the vaccine affected their health?
So I guess
Go
the
ahead,
question
Dr.
I have is, in particular, what were the issues with the health? We know that people can have some short-term side effects, you know, body aches, headache, muscle aches, fatigue, but I really haven't seen a whole lot of impact on people's health. Now, with the Johnson & Johnson Janssen COVID vaccine, that's the one that was associated with the rare blood clot in the brain. There were 15 cases and about 3.99 million women vaccinated. So very, very small risk. And just to put it in perspective, you have a much greater chance of getting in a car accident, going to the grocery store, or dying in that car accident than those very, very rare blood clots out there. So all in all, I have not really seen a big impact on individuals after getting the vaccine. And I don't mean to trivialize the 15 women who got the rare blood clot, but when you look how many hundreds of thousands of people alone in this country have died, to me, the benefits of the vaccine far outweigh the risks.
Dr. Cruz, did you want to add anything, since I know this is an area of expertise for you?
I believe Dr. Cunningham addressed the question pretty well. Yeah.
Okay. All right, great. So the next question is, do the current vaccines protect against the South African variant? Who'd like to take that?
Yes, everything that I've read, it does protect does protect against the South African variant. It's not as efficacious as it is against the UK variant, but still there is protection against the South African variant.
I would add that when we
It's
say
not-
it's a little bit less effective, people may get COVID, but it tends to be a much more mild disease where they don't need to go to the doctor or the emergency room or get admitted to the hospital.
Great. And then Dr. Cruz, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, so like what they said, it's still effective, but just not to the same degree. The important thing is it's still effective, so we still would recommend vaccination. So they can be confident that they are still, it would still confer protection against the South African variant.
And while we talk about the
today-
South African variant, again, the UK variant's the most predominant. There's some of the South African strain. There's also the California or West Coast strains. The vaccines do work against it, maybe not quite as well. There was one case north of Lansing of the India variant. There's good data from Israel that the vaccines work against that as well. And then there's been a few cases of the Brazil P1 strain in the state. That's the wild card. I'm not sure how well the vaccines are going to work against it, but I do expect they're going to have some activity. And that takes care of all the variants that had been identified in Michigan as of this week.
Okay, I have three questions, and I know we're short on time, so I'm going to ask for a little bit more time. So Governor Whitmer today tied reopening plans to vaccination rates. Does this seem like the right plan moving forward? So, for example, if we have 65%, I think it's a 65% vaccination rate, then there's a number of restrictions that will get lifted. Does this seem like the right plan to you all?
Scientifically, I think it makes sense. Is it practical? I don't know.
Okay. Anyone else want to add to that? I'm not sure if you've read it, so it's okay if you don't want to say anything. Go ahead, Dr. Cruz.
Yeah, I think it's sort of like a wait and see kind of thing. Like as we slowly relax the restrictions, we have to watch about the numbers. How are they doing? Because we were sort of, I guess, taken aback with this recent surge about 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. And, sometimes you have to pause and try to see what caused it. What are the factors? What kind of patients are getting sick this time around? What are we doing wrong? And so every time you relax, I think it's based on sound evidence. But more than anything, I think it's a wait and see approach.
Great. So evidence is important. We need to make sure that we're looking at the evidence and that we're weighing the evidence against the action steps in terms of reopening. You spoke to this, all of you, I've heard you speak to this about the vaccine, that there are some folks that have gotten COVID even after they've been vaccinated. And because that has, obviously been made public and it's been out there in the public, some people have been discouraged to get vaccinated. So could you talk a little bit about folks that end up getting COVID even though they've been vaccinated, and should you still get vaccinated even though you could still get COVID?
I actually track the numbers of COVID patients and Henry Ford employees after vaccination. I can tell you we've had 58 employees who had COVID after both doses of the vaccine. That's roughly a 0.28% of vaccinated people. They're all very mild illnesses doing great. When I compare it to the employees who chose not to get the vaccine, if you didn't get the vaccine, their chance of getting COVID are 25 times higher than the vaccinated group. And those are the employees who are sicker, wind up in the emergency department or the hospital. CDC just came out this week and they said for the adults over 65, I believe that If you're vaccinated, decreased hospitalization rate by 94%, which is an incredible number. So no vaccine's 100%, but you're never going to get something that's going to give 100%. This vaccine is far more effective than some vaccines we use like flu. To me, it's a no-brainer that you should get this vaccine. I received it, my family has received it, and I'm just a big believer in it.
Does anyone want to add anything to that? Go ahead, Dr. Cruz.
Yes, we have a similar experience at the Detroit Medical Center of our employees who we did have some what they call vaccine breakthroughs who even if they've been fully vaccinated, important to note that fully vaccinated means 2 weeks out of your second dose of the mRNA vaccines and 2 weeks after the J&J vaccine. So even then, like what Dr. Cunningham said, for their experience, we have a similar experience where these patients, although some of them were symptomatic, they were mild and they all did fairly well despite having gotten COVID after the vaccination. So we would still recommend it. Like he said, like looking at the numbers, the protection that it offers alone would, the benefit that it offers, we would still highly recommend it.
Great. So this is, there's one question that's really related to women, and what I want to tell that listener is that we are going to have some doctors on next week specifically to talk about the vaccine and issues specifically related to women, maternal health, so on and so forth. But the last question I'm going to ask you all, what are the risks of giant surges like what's happening in India? What can the U.S. do to support other countries like India who are experiencing extreme COVID surges?
Send
Any
them
thoughts on that?
vaccine. They need vaccine.
Dr. Cruz, anything to add to that?
That would be my answer too. I mean, I know that for India specifically, they also are lacking in terms of supply. It's gotten so bad that they're running out of oxygen tanks. So other countries have been offering support, but really the cornerstone, I would agree, would be vaccinations. It's a race against time between the development of new variants and getting enough numbers of a certain percentage of the population vaccinated. So if there's any message that we would leave you with, it's that.
Thank you all so much. We appreciate your time. It seems unreal that we're in this, but I feel so grateful that you all share your time and your expertise with us so that we can better understand what is going on and how we can, one, protect ourselves, but also protect our community. And in this last question, protect our global citizens. So thank you all so much. Jasmine, if you could just pop on for just a minute. I wanted to follow up with a question with you. Could you just quickly explain what is rent forward? What does that mean?
Yes, so that means that they can receive up to 12 months rent and then 3 months past that 12 months. So they will calculate it and they can still receive that money towards that rental assistance.
So if I was renting an apartment today, I could apply for 12 months rent and then another 3 months into 2022. Am I understanding that right?
Correct.
Great. Okay. And then I just because I just talked to Representative Rashida Tlaib this morning, on a separate issue, but she reminded us all on the call of how important it is for people to apply for these dollars now and not wait until they have an eviction notice or a shut-off notice. And I just wanted to confirm with you, Jasmine, that her urgency around that to us is true, that if people are struggling right now, they should reach out to Wayne Metro right now and not wait for the bills in the red letters.
That's absolutely correct. Apply now. The funds are available now. We're working around the clock. If you have any assistance that you need, please contact Wayne Metro through our Connect Center or visit our website at waynemetro.org.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. And I know that the folks on this call and others in the community would love to partner with Wayne Metro and maybe having you all come out and maybe do some signups in neighborhoods so that we can make sure that folks are getting access to these dollars, since we know that there's a time limit of when they need to be spent, and we know that we want to make sure that we're getting these dollars out to our families that need them, pretty desperately right now. So thank you for all the hard work that you do to make that happen. I know it's no easy feat in a normal time, but I know it's even harder right now. So thank you for all you do, Jasmine. And I think I'm passing it to Jametta. She's off mute, so I'm going to ask Jametta to come back on. And thank you so much, Jasmine. And thank you, Wayne Metro, for what you do for our families.
Thank you. And just reinforcing, again, the appreciation for that. A lot of things to try to keep up with. And if we think about the conversation that we just had with our physicians, and it really creates an opportunity for us to hear from one of our leaders in the city of Detroit that has been having to juggle these same kinds of issues. Folks are doing that in education. But those of us like Christine, Molly, myself, and others that lead nonprofit organizations, we too are trying to juggle this to keep our families and keep our staff safe. Well, I'm really pleased to welcome back to the program Robert Jamerson. Robert is the CEO of PAL. And I think so many of us know about the long legacy of the Police Athletic League and know that it has been one of those institutions in the city of Detroit that has made it a point where our young people, our little people to teenagers, have a place for physical fitness and to get introduced to sports and all of the sportsmanship that should be part of that. Robert, welcome.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I love this platform because we're at our best when we come together. We have parents, we have concerned people, we have the medical field. This coalition is what's needed to make decisions. And we're, as Jametta mentioned earlier, we've been affected, right? And really, what we found is you have to go back to your grassroots mission, and that's being a source in the community. Either it's awareness, access, or utilization of resources. And when we're at our best at Detroit PAL, we're addressing socioeconomic needs, education needs, and health and wellness needs because we're able to do what we do best, and that's attract families because of the fun that comes with play and sports and youth enrichment activities. But we are dedicated and we understand, our duties to be able to align them to these other resources with many of the organizations that, may be on the phone now, or organizations that are across the community. So I'm going to hit on a couple of things that I think are really relevant right now. So we are always on the line looking to see what the health department's doing, or the mayor's address, or Governor Whitmer's address, to really stay in tune. We decided early on to really side with safety. We made a very important decision with our football and cheer program, which many people know is our largest sports programming, to postpone it, right? And we had a lot of our coaches and organizations even to form their own league to continue playing, and they did well because we wish them the best. But we just wanted to side on caution, just because we understand the importance of these youth may go out and be fine, but we never know who they're going home to. And some of them go home to grandparents or their environments where they may not have all of the safety precautions in place. And we just wanted to make sure that we were doing our part with that. But what sports are we doing? We're doing soccer, but we're shifting it to more of the skills and clinics, because we have an opportunity to be able to space them out more and be able to really still develop, create fun environments, but to create an atmosphere where there's safety for the players and the coaches, and parents can still watch. We've also done things with baseball, right? There's some sports that are just a little less contact. And so, but we've added some things that, may cause it to be a little more cumbersome. But if you're looking at, do I wear a mask while playing, or do I, after each inning, wipe balls off, or do I keep my balls as the ones that I use, or do I make sure dugouts are clean after every, so there's some things that we're doing as a safety measure, and sometimes people may think it's over the top, but no one wants to be there when one person is infected and things become more difficult for them. So those are some of the things that we're doing. We also shifted to really part of our mission, and many may not know it, is even though sports is a big, important part of what we do, we shifted to youth enrichment programming as a must to really align them to helping them find their greatness by aligning them to these other aspects of their lives. So our GREAT model is what we use, and I'll share it only because I think it's relevant for you as a parent or you as someone else that's doing programming. The GREAT model stands for this. The G is goal setting. So if they come and become a part of our sports program or youth enrichment programming, number one thing that we ask them to do is to set goals. And it's easy to align to a sport. You ran faster, you jumped higher, you won a game. Just writing it down puts them in position to become a great employee, employer, or an entrepreneur that impacts the community in the future. The R is resilience, and we talk a lot about what they're facing right now. This is only making them stronger. It's making them able to face the things that we know they're going to face in the near future. The E is embracing healthy lifestyles, and I think it was mentioned earlier on the call, physical activity helps to address some of the health disparities, but also the mental aspect, a therapist, and having someone that you can talk to during these difficult times. It's okay to be not okay. It's okay to be able to open up to someone and share that you're not okay. And so we've done a lot with some of our psychologist friends and psychiatrist friends to be able to talk to our mentors, families, and even our youth to hear their perspective. The A is accountability. And this is where I challenge the parents that are on the line right now. When you think about coaches, you think about teachers, you think about police officers, there are going to be some that are challenged. But one thing you can control is your effort, attitude, actions, and behavior. And that's the opportunity for you as a parent to have that meaningful dialogue, because you can't always quit or move or shift someone because of someone not doing things the way you may want them to be done. So A is accountability, and T is finally teamwork. And so our relationship with the police department is even more important right now when you think about some of the police relation challenges that sometimes flare up across the nation. Fortunately, Detroit hasn't experienced them to the extent as some of the other areas. And I think because of its commitment to preventative police and community policing, and a lot of that work is done through Detroit PAL. When you enter our programs, we align your youth with those types of programs. So I think in answering those questions, I can open it up to see if people have any concerns as a parent, or if you're trying to say, what types of programs should I enter them in? Or how do I get engaged in Detroit PAL's programs that we offer? And if we don't offer them, we definitely align you with some organizations that do offer them. But we do chess right now. We just had an article in the Free Press that talked about critical thinking skills, and we added some activity to make it fun for our youth to play chess. We have Apple, who sponsors the computers that they use, and they don't even have to come in contact because they can use the computer screens to do those things. We have science programming, we have literacy programming. So we have a lot of things that you can do and engage your youth, and then add some activity into it so they have the best of both worlds during this time where we're trying to move a little slower and be a little more prudent to protect our youth and protect our families. So Jametta, I'll open it up for questions for anyone if there are any out there.
Yeah, and so while I think Christine or others are pulling the questions together, just really seriously want to congratulate you because you have erred on the side of caution, and knowing that you and your team are absolutely ready to go to be able to provide the kinds of experiences that you've had success with. And it's really hard to make this shift. But I think you've also have helped the audience and all of us think about the ways that we can still be creative and purposeful in still meeting our mission, but a different kind of way. And that focus on enrichment is really so important. I want to make sure, though, that as people are listening, and Christine, I'm going to pop it to you. Robert, for just a quick moment, could you share again how people would get in touch with you, both the PAL number and if there is anything in particular they should ask for?
Yeah, so the PAL number is 313-833-1600. That's 313-833-1600. Or you can go to DetroitPAL.org, and that's DetroitPAL.org, and you'll find a list of all the programs that we offer. And I would challenge you, watch some of the videos so you can see that it's fun, it's engaging, and really they're getting more than just playing a sport. They're learning about themselves and learning valuable leadership skill sets. So thank you, Jametta, for making sure I put that in there.
Great. Christine.
Hi, Robert. It's really interesting to hear how PAL has moved and adjusted in this time. Just one question about looking forward this summer and beyond. What type of sports are you all going to be offering as you look forward?
Yeah, so we have our summer camp. So if you go online, you'll be able to see we're going to be launching our summer camp. We have a program called Critical Conversations. This is where youth get to engage with our police officers, and we're doing it virtually, and we may try to do some in person, but imagine 5 youth going in a breakout room with one officer, and we put topics up there like, how do you deal with social media? What are your rights? What does it mean to be able to speak your piece, right? And it creates empathy for both sides, police and for the youth. We also have baseball that's coming up. And so, like I mentioned earlier, we'll be doing that. We have some soccer clinics that will be coming up for boys and for young ladies. And then our tiny programs. I love the tiny programs. We're already doing golf. It's called Little Putters. Can you imagine that? Little Putters. We fought over the name. We wanted to call it Little Eagles because I went to St. Martin de Porres, but they won out on Little Putters. But we're doing that. We're doing when I mentioned golf, we're doing the chess, and we are planning for our football and cheer to come back because we have some best practices that I think will allow for us to do it. But once again, it takes all of us to do it. I know Governor Whitmer talked about that 70% threshold where we begin to release another set of restrictions to be removed, right? And so we all have to do our part. We have to be able to talk to our family members to make sure that they're going to do it. And it's nothing better than a testimony, as simple as going to Facebook saying, I got my shots, right? And so hopefully that answers that question.
It does. And I sort of want to know how old the Little Putters is, because maybe I have some little putters in my family.
So little putters are 5 to 8. So like for my 4-year-old who's still working on being civilized still, you got a little more time for him because he may hit you with the putter. Right now.
Yes. Okay. Well, I have 2 little putters then. So, okay. My last question, and because you raised it, if you have gotten your vaccines, could you provide a really quick testimonial on the spot?
Yeah, so what's interesting, and Jametta probably knows my background. So I worked at Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, right? And so I actually was working on a health disparity studies looking at improving vaccination rates across multicultural groups. And one of the things I was doing during that project is we talked about the importance of a coalition. So I mentioned that earlier, but also the importance of a trusted source. So Jametta, a trusted source in the communities that she serves. PAL's a trusted source in the community, but a trusted source can only go so far without having a person of expertise. So Dr. Cruz from DMC, who was speaking earlier, if a patient goes in and they don't hear, once they're drawn in by this trusted source, the doctor saying, yes, you need to get the vaccine, then that's when some of the other experiences and challenges and misconceptions people may have or fears that people may have cause them not to get it done. So for me, I was confident that when I think about pharmaceutical companies and even working in that field, Pfizer would definitely not want to put anyone at risk for the dollars that they can make in the short term over a vaccine. So they're going to do everything they can to keep their reputation and to be able to make sure they're providing a product that is safe and a product that people will be able to potentially save lives versus putting something out there that would be risky. One of the things that people sometimes can be fearful of is how fast it came out. And sometimes the quickness of it coming out is a lot to do with sometimes there's order in the number of products that are available and that are going under discussion. So there's the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 type of trials. And so there are some things that were sped up, but safety is something that they cannot take a risk on. They cannot speed up the types of significant improvement in opportunities for efficacy first and then safety as a measure for it. So yeah, I've got my second vaccine a couple of days ago. A little sore, I'm feeling good. I speak things into existence, so I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to be fine, and I encourage everyone else to get their vaccine.
Thank you so much for your testimonial. And Jametta, I'm going to kick it back to you. Thank you for all that you're doing for young people right now and the adjustments that you've made during this time so that families can still be connected and young people can still be connected. Jametta?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you in particular for raising your own experience with Pfizer, because one of the issues, just to kind of do a quick personal privilege, and we as advocates are saying this, we know that there is justifiable lived experience of institutional racism. And we know the experience that not only in the past that African Americans and other people of color had, but even present. But the reality is just what you said, Robert, is that Black folk as scientists, as administrators, have been involved in the development of these vaccines. And unfortunately, there's not enough that are in the public view to see and to be giving the testimonies that you're giving. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's really important. And let's talk about that some more. We really got to do it, because we got to stop COVID so we can move forward with our lives. And we can't do it unless we have this whole community working together, being knowledgeable. And yes, I got my vax. So with that, Robert, let's be in touch on this. And by the way, cool. Come hang out with us tomorrow at GPN from 12 to 6. We're going to be doing COVID testing and stomping it down with vaccines for children and adults from 16 and up.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone. This is a great platform and very informative. Thank you.
Good, good. Love it. Little putters. Don't you just love that? I love that. Okay. So speaking of things that we love our Detroit Health Department, because they stand up for us and have done it continuously. And really pleased to have Hannah Ewing to return to keep us informed of not only our overall health, because it's about being healthy all the time. That enables us to be healthier when pandemics like a COVID hit us, and it has hit us. Hannah, please come on. And if you would, give us some updates about the vaccine itself. And I love how you have that first slide. Detroit, growing stronger together. Hannah, welcome.
Thank you so much. And I love the little putters. I've been smiling about it behind
I know.
Great. So this is the current situation. I'm going to be brief on the updates, just with short of time, but our numbers are going down. We were about 20% last week, and now we're at 15.2. This is just showing our community is taking care of one another, getting vaccinated, and following those good COVID guidelines. Next slide, please. And this is the graph of the positivity rate showing that Detroit is continuing to go down. And next slide, please. And our vaccine rate is almost at 30%. We're still lagging behind the other counties, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about all the wonderful ways this week that the city has increased access to the vaccine. Next slide, please. And we'll go through a couple more. Just keep clicking forward for me. Next one, and perfect. So, yeah, we can go there. So let's talk about a couple of new exciting things about what you can do once you're vaccinated. So the first is that you can visit a home or a private setting without a mask with fully vaccinated people. This is super exciting for me because I'm going to see my grandma for the first time in a year, and we're going to be able to do so safely. You can also visit inside a home or private setting without a mask with one other unvaccinated household who are at low risk from severe COVID illness. So this is a household where there's young people or people without pre-existing conditions, so no people with asthma or hypertension, just so we make sure that everyone stays safe and healthy. You can also travel domestically without pre or post testing, travel domestically without quarantining. You do not have to quarantine if you are exposed to someone who had COVID. So say you were at the workplace, you would not need to get to quarantine if you are exposed. The only thing to look out for is to monitor for symptoms. And if you start showing symptoms of COVID-19, like a cough, chills, fever, and things like that, then you're going to isolate. And the last new thing this week is that we can gather or conduct activities outdoors without wearing a mask, except in certain crowded settings and venues. So that's new. Next slide, please. And remember, this guidance is only for fully vaccinated people. For the Pfizer and Moderna, it's a 2-dose series, and you have to wait 14 days after your second dose to be fully protected. And the next one is a 2 weeks after your single dose, which is the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Next slide, please. So we're excited to announce our Let's Get Back Family Vaccine Day this Saturday, May 1st, 2021, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. There's going to be food trucks, free parkings, and giveaways, and this event is specifically geared towards families. And to register, just give us a call at 313-230-0505. This is one of the ways we're trying to increase access to our Detroiters. Next slide, please. So for additional appointments, you're going to call that same number, 313-230-0505, Monday through Friday. And you're going to press the button 1 for a vaccine option. They'll ask you a couple pieces of information like your name, address, date of birth, phone number, email, and if you've ever had a previous allergic reaction, so they know what to look out for when you're getting your vaccine. Next slide, please. We also have a very exciting new program called when we're bringing back the Good Neighbor Initiative. You can get paid to get your neighbors vaccinated. Every person you bring in the car with you, I think up to 3 people, you will get $50 per person per shot. So you can get $50 the first shot, and then next time you bring them for their next dose, you can get $50 again. In order to be eligible for this program, you need to register, and you can register by calling us at 313-230-0505 and just let them know that you want to participate in the Good Neighbor program. Next slide, please. And some additional ongoing locations. We, as always, have the TCF Center available with drive-through and walk-in appointments. If you'd like the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, you can visit the Northwest Activity Center at 18100 Myers or the Straight Gate International Church, which is a new drive-through location. Both are offering the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Additionally, we have appointments available at the Roberto Clemente Recreational Center and the Farewell Recreational Center every Monday through Friday from 9 to 1. And if you are a person who works during the day, we have additional evening locations. The first is at Clark Park at 1130 Clark Street from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. And the next one is at the Samaritan Center. Next slide, please. And additionally, we are continuing on with our community Saturdays. Every Saturday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. You can get your vaccines at Second Ebenezer Church, Fellowship Chapel, or Greater Grace Temple. Next slide, please. And if you're a person who loves maps, we've also created this great graphic so you can see what looks like close to where you live and work, and you can get vaccinated. And next slide, please. And if you don't know that or you don't like using maps, you can always use our text line to text your address to find the 3 nearest locations to you using the number 313-217-3732 to find out what the vaccine locations are closest to you. Next slide, please. And as always, we encourage you to continue following the public health guidelines, get your COVID-19 vaccines if you are eligible, practice good hand hygiene, continue to social and physically distance 6 feet apart, and wear your face mask when you're around people in crowded spaces and interacting with people outside of your home. Next slide, please. And you can always give us a call at 313-876-4000. We have a line now manned by registered nurses where you can call and ask them any question you have about getting vaccinated or COVID-19 in general. And email us at dhdoutbreak@detroitmi.gov. And that's everything.
That was phenomenal as always. And it's been really wonderful to be able to see how our city has created an infrastructure of resources and places for our community to go. And we see that between the city, between hospitals, nonprofits, mobile clinics, church-based. It's going to take all of us, isn't it, Christine? We've been at this now for 14 months. And if we don't get focused and realize that taking a shot is really no different than how we shut down measles, smallpox, polio, is so needed. So handed it to you to end us out from another really powerful Thursday with the COVID Coalition.
Great. Thank you so much, Jametta. Thank you, Hannah. We do have one suggestion. Could you guys, some people would really like the health department to offer more of the clinics at schools. So just take that back to your team, and we'd like to see more of that. We're hearing from the audience. So thank you so much, Hannah, for being here. We really appreciate it. So the first thing that before we close out, that we would love you to do is, if you have literally 1 minute, help us honor teachers this month who have made an impact in your life. You can complete a 5-minute survey to nominate an educator who's inspired you or your child. And again, you don't have to be a student right now. This could be somebody that inspired you to get where you are today, or you can be a student right now. But we really want to honor teachers this month during Teacher Appreciation Month. 482 Forward has launched a community voting tool for each school district in the state to vote on how they want the school stimulus money to be spent. We've got another survey for you. It's really a voting tool. Please, it's getting dropped in the chat. Fill it out. We have this opportunity right now to make some decisions about how the money that's coming down in the stimulus packages are spent. Please let your voice be heard around that. Next, DHDC has launched a language justice petition, and they are asking folks to sign it. And really what this petition is to ensure that schools are providing information in the language, the native language of their students and their students' caregivers. It's really important as parents that we're able, and caregivers, that we're able to support our children. And if we speak a language other than English, it's really important that we get that information in our native language. So that link is also being dropped in the chat. You just heard about the City of Detroit Family Vaccine Day. This is a great event at the Pistons training facility. Again, that's this Saturday, 9 to 5. There will be food and Pistons giveaways, and apparently there's also going to be some Girl Scout cookies. That's the word on the street. So, go check that out if you have not gotten vaccinated. And lastly, DPN, Week of the Young Child, celebrating powerful parenting with advocacy and health workshops, and a family day with vaccine and testing. So if you can't make it on Saturday, DPN is offering vaccine and testing this Friday. There's virtual options and outdoor options. Go see Jametta and her team. They would love to have you. So that's it for today. I'm sorry, there's 2 more vaccine clinics that are coming up, one at our organization at Urban Neighborhood Initiative and DHDC, and we will give more details as those days come. And Jametta, it looks like you have something, so go ahead.
Oh, no, I just came on because I'm ready for us to wrap up.
All right. So if everybody can turn their cameras on and go see Jametta. We want to remind everybody to stay healthy, stay powerful, and stay informed. We'll see y'all later.
Stay strong, stay blessed, stay masked up, get your vax.